After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day M. Hamel had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand, France Alsace, France Alsace. After finishing the grammar, he gave in writing, he had a lesson in writing, he gave something in written, and that day he brought some new copies. On that day, it was on the copies, France Alsace was written, and he has distributed the copy. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of our desk. Now this copy was distributed to everybody and it was looking like a flags floating everywhere. Means on one it was France written, other it was written flag. It was looking as if the flag of France Alsace was on the desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Everybody was busy in their work when he was giving writing things to the people who were sitting inside the class. Everybody was writing. There was complete silence. How quiet it was, he says, and there was complete silence. There was silence. Only the noise or the scratching of the pens over the paper. When the people were writing, only the sound of the pen was coming. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody paid attention to them, not even the littlest one, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks as if that was French too. During that time when the classes were going on and the people were busy in writing, beetles are the type of insect. They flew inside the room and nobody paid attention to the beetles, and even the littlest one means the little children, those who were sitting inside the classroom, they have not noticed the insects. And what they were doing, they were not learning the language, but they were tracing their fish hooks. They were drawing something, and as if that was also French, means they were also busy in doing that. On the roof of the pigeons cooed very low. Even on the roof there were pigeons, they were making a very low, they cooed in a very low noise, and I thought to myself then, France thought, will they make them sing in Germany when the pigeons? Then he was thinking, these here German people, will they German people will make these pigeons also learn German? Understood now? This line is very important. Will they make them sing in Germany when the pigeons? Means will these Germany people, if they are willing to teach the people German language, will they teach this language to pigeons also? Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little schoolroom. Now, when he says here, whenever I looked up from my writing, when he was writing, in between he was looking at M. Hamel, he was just looking his face. M. Hamel was sitting motionless in his chair. He was looking here and there, gazing first at one thing, and he was just trying to capture all these things in the room. How from 40 years he has been teaching in that school, and he was gazing at one thing, then the other thing. He wanted to fix all this in his mind, just how everything looked in that little school before leaving the place. He wanted to look at all the things because he was mostly attached to that place. Fancy. For 40 years he had been there in the same place with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that, he was looking inside, outside, garden was there. He was trying to capture all these things. Only the desks and benches had been worn something. Means what was the change from 40 years? Everything was same, only desks and benches were a little bit worn. The walnut trees in the garden were taller, and the hawthorn that he had planted himself twined about the windows of the room. And then even the walnut trees earlier, whatever he has grown in the garden, it has become taller, and the hawthorn that he had planted, means M. Hamel had planted in his garden, it has twined about the windows of the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. Now, Franz is thinking about M. Hamel, that how much he is upset, and it must break his heart because he is going to leave his place, this place where he has worked for 40 years and he has grown the trees. He was teaching these children, he was in this country, and his sister is busy in packing their trunk, and for they must leave, they are going to leave the country next day. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. But on that day, after teaching, after giving written, he was having that much courage to listen from the people how much they have done. After the writing, we had a lesson in history. After that writing work, there was a lesson of history, and then the babies chanted their ba, bee, bee, boo, boo, means even the babies were trying to speak this. Down there at the back of the room, old Hauser had put on his spectacles and holding his primer in both the hands. Even old Hauser was sitting at the back. He was wearing spectacles and he was holding his primer book and trying to get it and reading and listening. Primer in both hands, spread the letters with them. He, using that book, he tried to repeat the words, recite the words. You could see that he too was crying, his voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Now Franz says that here. The person Hauser was trying to learn, he was also very upset that M. Hamel will leave the place, and his voice was trembling with emotion. It was one thing funny for him, and we all wanted to laugh and cry. Why they wanted to cry? Because the person is going to leave the place, and earlier they have not given importance to the language, they have not tried to learn the language, and the last day they are going to learn it. Now the Franz, he says, we all wanted to laugh and cry. How will I remember it, that last lesson? And I remember this last lesson, how properly they have understood, how sincerely all have read it, and what was the feeling of the last lesson. All at once the church clock struck 12. Now it was time of 12, church clock struck 12. Then the Angelus, means the prayer started. At the same moment the trumpets of the Prussian returning from drill sounded under our windows. Then there was the sound of the Prussian soldiers. They were returning from their drill, and that sound was coming towards the windows. M. Hamel stood up very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. And M. Hamel stood up. He was standing when the time was 12, when the Prussian soldiers were returning. He stood up. His face was very pale, and he was standing near his chair. And he never saw that his teacher was so much tall. He was straightly standing up, and he was looking so tall. My friends, then he said, M. Hamel said, my friend, said he, I, but something choked him with the full emotions, and he was so much attached to the people, attached to the country. He has to leave this country. With that emotions, he was not able to speak. When the person is so much upset, the person is not able to speak. Something choked in his neck, and he was not able to speak. He said, my friends, then. He could not go on, he could not speak. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could. On the board, he wrote, Vive la France. Its meaning is long live France. Means long live France language. This language should be having a long life. Everybody should learn it. Everybody should give respect to this language. The teacher, without speaking, he said, my friends. Afterward, he took a piece of chalk. He has written, Vive la France. Means long live France. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall. Then he moved towards the wall, and without a word he made a gesture to us with his hand. School is dismissed, you may go. And he, as he was very upset, he moved backside, means towards the wall, and without a word he made a gesture with his hand that school is dismissed, you may go, means everybody can leave the class. Okay, I think chapter, you must have got this chapter. Okay, thank you.